Hey, it's Brian. We're doing something a little different on this podcast. With the protests and riots happening around the country, John and I wanted to have a conversation about what it's like to be a black man in America today. We've invited on Norris Frederick to join us. Norris is an Olympic long jumper turned social media consultant and creator. Like John, he is also a black American. Norris just released a 6-minute video on his Instagram channel called Breaking the Silence, in which he speaks publicly for the first time about what it feels like to be a black person in America. It's currently approaching 200,000 views. Norris doesn't sugarcoat anything in this conversation. He shares exactly how he feels, and he shares some of the experiences that have led him to feel this way. Before you listen to this podcast, I highly encourage you to click on the link in the show notes and watch his video. Then, come back and join us for a wide-ranging discussion of what it's like to be a black man in America, what makes this time different, and why Norris is skeptical that this will lead to lasting change. As for me, I can't pretend to understand what it's been like for John, Norris, and all the other black men in America, but I appreciated being able to participate in this discussion. It was important for me to hear their stories. It's important for all of us to hear more stories like theirs. Here's our conversation with Norris Frederick. All right, we're really excited to welcome Norris Frederick onto the podcast. In light of all the situations that's been going on, Norris just published a really powerful video on Instagram where he spoke about his experience and breaking the silence of being a black man in America. And we've invited Norris on. Norris and John go way back, but this is going to be a little bit different podcast. We want to talk to Norris about this moment that we're in and explore it a little bit, the conflicting emotions that many people are feeling. So, Norris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for taking the time, Norris. I know you're a busy creator. Obviously, you're an Olympic athlete, a businessman, doing all kinds of amazing things, positive things in the world. But you and I had a pretty interesting conversation just a couple of days ago, and you shared a quick preview of what you just published as a new piece, a new video that you had released and everything. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to share why you called it Breaking Silence is the name of the video. It's on your Instagram. Please tell people, first of all, how they find it and also a little bit of that backstory. What led you to choose to do that video and do it right now?
Yeah, perfect. So like John said, my name is Norris Frederick. I am a Seattle, Washington native. I was born and raised here. I wanted to create something that meant something to me and not just for what's going on in the current world. For anybody who is of color, this world isn't easy. It's not all rose petals and things like that. Like it's a grind and it's hard. And as of lately, with this quarantine and having all the extra free time and things like that, and able to be online and be more, in the social media space, like it's just one killing after another. And unfortunately, this time it's, just like the black female race. And it's been confusing. And I didn't want to say anything at first, just because I think I've become numb to it. It's become, everyday life, for me as a minority. And the challenge has begun when we're trying to figure out, like, why me? And like, what have I done? Like, I was born into this body. I didn't ask to be black. I didn't ask to be a man. I didn't ask to be any of this. It was just the card that I was drawn. And, I wake up every day not knowing, like, if this is going to be the last day or the last breath that I have, or, what happens if I go into the wrong place at the wrong time and things like that. So I wanted to create something so people can actually hear it and see it. And I wanted people to see the sincerity on my face when I was speaking. And like, this isn't new news to me, and this isn't something that's just crept up on me. Like, it's been here for my entire life. And I've seen it not only in this country, it's been the most prevalent in this country because I'm from here, but I've seen it worldwide, and it's a scary place. And We did a bunch of outtakes, my team and I didn't put a lot of the stuff in the video, but one thing that sticks out, I would never want to raise a kid in this world right now. I wouldn't even know what kind of, like, I don't know what comes first, like the birds and the bees conversation, or what happens when you get approached by an officer of the law.
Yeah.
So like,
wow.
I don't want to have that conversation with a kid. I don't want to have that conversation with anybody. It should be a no-brainer.
You said something,
right,
Norris, a second ago that like you never know if today's going to be your last day, and I just want to ask you really directly, like, is that really, when you go outside, is that really something that's on your mind? Because I think as a white man, whether I'm in America or anywhere else, I do have that feeling subtly, like, of course you could get in a car accident, you could get in a bus, you could get hit by a bus, the proverbial, something could happen, but I don't have any fear that it's going to be because of something like a police altercation or something like that, right?
Right.
And I'm curious, how prevalent that really is for you on a daily basis. And same question to you, John.
Yeah.
So my thing is, Brian, have you ever been in a neighborhood and you just get like this eerie feeling like you shouldn't be here?
Yes. Not often, but yeah, sometimes. A couple times.
That's what it's like being a black man in America. Some neighborhoods you may feel safer in because the majority of the people look like you, but like, where are the police going? If the majority of the people look like you and that's where you feel safe, that's where all the conflict is going to, like, that's where everybody's going to. So, and then when you remove yourself from that, let's say I'm like, okay, I don't want to go to what makes me comfortable. I go to a different place and now I'm a complete outsider. So now even I got a bigger target on my back. So it's extremely uncomfortable. And it may not be, I wish, Brian, it was to the sense of where the only fear is like, hey, it could be a car accident. Hey, I could get hit by a bus. Hey, I could have an allergic reaction to something. The ending result is a man just lost his life for a counterfeit $20 bill.
Yep.
It's not like think about this situation too. Like, we're in a quarantine, people are losing their job, unemployment's at a standstill right now. People don't have anything. And if the price on a person's life, on a black male's life this day and age is $20, like, I mean, I'm having a hard time trying to figure out where I'm at with that.
That's hard to even comprehend. I mean,
for sure.
You know what I mean? And well, to answer the question for me, it's a tough question to answer because I personally haven't grown up in a predominantly black community anywhere. I mean, I've grown up in communities that are predominantly either Hispanic or predominantly Caucasian. So for me, like, when I do where I've grown up, I never thought about it, but I'm pretty sure it was happening all the time. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that it actually was happening all the time. I am being watched. I am being profiled. I am, people will walk across the street, or you're walking on the sidewalk and the white woman or something clutches their bag and you're like, is somebody behind? I'm looking around like it's somebody behind me because I wasn't around a lot of black people growing up. And my parents always taught us, they focused on positivity. They focused on inclusion. They focused on acceptance. It was never even a question in my own home how we treated people. Race never was a topic of conversation as it relates to doing the right thing. So I never spent time thinking about it, but the funny thing is, it was always happening.
Right.
It was always there. I'm pretty sure my dad was thinking about it all the time. My father was the one who, my mom taught it to us and she raised us this way, but my dad talked about it. He talked about Malcolm X. He is an artist. He's an artist. He's a painter. He's a very, very talented painter. And he drew these beautiful pictures and murals of beautiful black men. Muhammad Ali. He drew pictures of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, all these people. And he's putting this stuff up and he's reading these books and he's putting it in front of me and stuff. So he was thinking about it. I knew it was on his mind, you know, and looking back now and the conversation I have with my father now. But when I go outside and I'm doing my own thing, like I never thought like, oh my gosh, like should I be worried about it? But that doesn't mean that it wasn't a problem. That's the funny thing is that I didn't think about it because I wasn't raised to think about it, you know.
Yep.
But it was there, and that's the flip side to it today. And as of probably the last 10 years or so living in Orange County, I didn't see a lot. I was very aware of my blackness, and I would always tell myself, gosh, I'm like a unicorn. I don't see a lot of black people in Orange County. It's like very rare to see a black person, so I'm like, man, I felt self-conscious. And because of being self-conscious, I would see cops and I'd be like, oh, I would get worried because I knew that there was a possibility that didn't matter that I've never gotten this. I've gotten like one speeding ticket my entire life, and it happened like a year ago. And I was in New York, and we were in this open thing, and we were driving to this 6-hour drive, and I just didn't realize I was going 80, And that was the first time I ever gotten a ticket. I never do anything crazy in my car. Is my point. I drive like a grandma. My kids will tell me. I'm really like chill about my driving. I see driving as like a very dangerous thing. So I take it very seriously. So for me, even as somebody who's a cautious driver, who's clean driving record, I'm like, oh my gosh, am I doing something wrong? And I'm like 2 hands on the wheel, 10-2, because I'm thinking I could get pulled over just because I'm black, Right. And so I didn't think about it a lot growing up, but I've thought about it a lot since moving to Orange County. And it's disappointing because, especially as of late, I always wonder, I'm like, man, is this going to be the day? I don't think about if, I think about when, because I know it's coming. And that's been my experience. I didn't think about it. I didn't think about it a lot growing up. I've had to think about it a lot the last 10 years, and I've thought about it a lot the last 7 days.
And going off of what you're saying, these past few days, like I love everybody. Black, white, Mexican, Asian, it doesn't matter. Like I love people, and I said that in my video, and I meant it full-heartedly. But here's my issue. I've had people these past few days reach out to me that I haven't spoken to in 5 years, 10 years, or ever, saying, oh, I just wanted to check in on you. Don't check in on me. Don't do that. This is what America has come to right now, where like people are feeling so guilty for the same stuff that has been going on for centuries, as if this Wednesday today is any different than the Wednesday that happened last week or the month before that. Like nothing about my life has changed. When I woke up this morning and I had to go to the grocery store or I had to go down to the bank, I was still equally at risk then as I was 5 years ago. Nothing about my life has changed. So don't take your guilt and your lack of like education around this situation and project you feeling sorry for anyone else aside from yourself onto me. I don't need it. I got a bunch of other things that are going on in my life. And it's just like that has been the most frustrating, degrading, devaluing thing that has been going on these past few days. And
I've heard that from a lot of African Americans, specifically African American males. I've heard that a lot.
Well, think about it. It's not like if I were to ask you a question, John, and Brian, no disrespect over the white race. John, did you not have an inkling in your mind to assume that one of two things were going to happen? Either white people were going to take this way, way, way up here, or just not do anything about it at all. So either they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry to every black person in the world, or they're just going to be like, whatever, I'm not going to say anything to anybody.
Yeah,
and it's like,
that's what we thought. I think that was the thought that we had. Or that was the conversation that we had. That was a point that you made that really hit me hard, and why I had to share that social post of like, I'm still black when this stops trending. What happens then? I had to say that, and it's like it's weird because I'm like, that's not really my style. But I'm like, I've been quiet for too long. I have to break the silence, and I think that a lot of people, black, white, and otherwise, they all kind of they do feel guilty. And I'm like, gosh, like I said to you, I feel ashamed that I didn't say anything sooner, that I haven't really stood up for it. But I'm like, we said the same thing. We're like, I don't know what to do because everything has already been tried, it seems.
Yeah.
And and we're still here. We're still here. Like the King of Kings, Martin Luther King Jr., if he couldn't do it, I think a lot of us are like, in the back of our heads, we're like, if he can't do it, and look at how far he went, what the hell can we do? That's how it feels. So we're sitting there, and I think a lot of black people are like, I got to protect what I got. Well, and I don't want to bring more heat on myself. I think a lot of black people feel like that. I don't want no more heat on me. It's already hard enough. It's already hard enough.
I think as black men, especially black men in America, we have this like undying way of surviving. So, you know, like I don't come from money. I don't come from stability. I don't come from all these things that, just speaking on behalf of myself, I don't come from all these things that I feel that a normal life should be, right? I never grew up in a two-income household or a two-parent household. And I remember the first white girl that I had dated, I honestly asked, I said, hey, like, does your dad live with you? And she looked at me and was just like, that's a weird question. And I was like, well, why is it a weird question? And she was like, well, does your dad not live with you? And I was like, no. And like, at that point, I'm just thinking to myself, like, like, am I normal or is she normal? Or like,
right.
You know, like when I was sitting at my friend's house, we would have like dinner as a family. And then the next morning we'd have breakfast as a family. Like, I never experienced that. Wow. Or like after dinner, you get dessert. Like I've never experienced that. Right. Or like an allowance. I've never experienced that.
Right.
Wow.
Like, cause we were too busy just trying to survive. So I have a whole different appreciation for the things that I value in my life, especially my life. And like, when we had a national championship meet in Arkansas in college, and we went, it was in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and we went to a Walmart to get Gatorade and water. And there was a little boy in there with his family, mom and dad, I'm assuming, and the little boy had to be no older than 4 or 5 or 6, couldn't be no older. My teammate and I, another black guy, long jumper from Cordell, Georgia. So he understood racism. He had been through it. He's seen it at its fullest capacity and things like that. This little boy looked at us and said, I don't like black people. And I looked at my teammate and he looked back at me and my teammate was about to say something. So the dad looks at us and kind of like smiles and was like, he shouldn't be saying that. At 5 or 6 years old, for you to know, okay, first and foremost, no, racism is a top behavior, number 1. Racism is a learned behavior, number 2.
Yeah.
Number 3, for a 5 or 6 year old to put all those words together to form a cohesive sentence to target it at a person that he knows will hurt from those words was beyond me.
Yep.
So I knew it wasn't the kid that said that. I knew it was the parent that said that. So I sat and I looked at JR and I'm like, bruh, like, did you hear that? He was like, man, we need to get out of here. And then like, it hit me. I'm not in Seattle, Washington. This isn't my everyday life. I've never seen it like this before.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you just feel defenseless because what happens? Really ask yourself, if I were to cuss those parents out and then things got physical, what happens? Who goes to jail?
Yep.
You do.
That's right.
So it's just like the other day, this was like 3 months ago, I was at the grocery store and I was in the checkout line and the lady didn't have any help with like bagging. So I went to the side and I was helping her bag before I paid. The lady behind me had a cart and said, could you move your cart out the way? Where do you want me to put this cart? You can't even scan your stuff because I'm in line. So I said, hold on, please. So I go to pay and she rams her cart into the back of my heels. And I turned around and I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Move out the way." I had enough. So I nudged the cart super hard and hit her in her stomach with it. And she looked at me and was like, what did she say? She's like, "You African a-hole."
Wow.
First of all, I'm not even African.
Right.
Putting that out there. I don't even have the same complexion as an African. So, and then before anybody came to my aid or anything, cell phones start popping up.
Yeah.
No.
And people are recording it. And I'm looking at this lady like, and I'm asking myself, I'm telling myself, like, if this lady gets on this boat, she's going to have to ride it.
Mm-hmm.
And then a white woman came up and was like, "You're in the wrong. You're in the wrong. I saw everything." And then she looked at me and was like, "You've done nothing wrong. Please go on about your business. We'll handle that." I get to my car, and again, I felt so defeated. I felt degraded. I felt demasculated. I was embarrassed. I haven't gone back to that grocery store. So it's
when did this happen, Norris?
This was like December. In December.
Wow. I think these are the kind of experiences that like myself, unless I happen to be exactly in the right place at the right time, I don't see it, right? I don't experience it. And it's the thing that doesn't get caught on maybe it doesn't get caught on a camera. It doesn't get flagged in some statistic. It doesn't get picked up. Yet I think these are probably far and away the most common experiences, right? Like the George Floyd is so extreme. And it's not that it's not happening, it's happening way too much. But it's these experiences that you're describing that I think create the conditions for the big reaction that we're seeing right now. It's the fact that like every single black man out there has probably can list off a handful of experiences that they've had at the expense of other citizens or at the police or at whatever institution or group that they're dealing with, and they're small, like they're these little microaggressions or micro situations, but they have a huge effect on the way you feel on an ongoing basis, right? And they build on each other. They don't one doesn't go away after it's done and the next one comes. The next one makes the previous one feel even worse because it's.
Ryan, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If we take away athletes, we take away politicians, or any type of entertainment, when was the last time you turned on the news and saw a black man being praised for anything?
To be honest, the last thing it's been ages, but what I think about is this classic story of this random black man did a great deed to help somebody and we caught it on camera, kind of sort of thing, right? Like it's like this guy was the surprising hero in this situation. That's
the African in France that scaled a building to rescue some kid. I remember that pops in my head, and then he was made a French citizen only because of that thing, and the French wanted to look good and appear. It's like basically a PR thing in terms of why France.
But
they found out why France had done it. It's interesting.
Why is it that when I asked you guys those stories, you guys could name one or two stories off the top of your head?
Yeah.
Right? And you open the conversation with this happened a long time ago.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's
right.
Yeah.
If I were to ask you when the last time someone white is being praised, 22 minutes ago. Breaking news. Right? Like,
well, it's a good point. There was a young man, I think it was the first black valedictorian, I think of Princeton or something like that. Somebody had posted this on LinkedIn. I think it was Princeton.
Yes.
And is the first black valedictorian in their school's history. And it's funny to read the comments. It's almost like the story is almost irrelevant because everybody's just like, well, that's not something we're celebrating because why the heck has it taken so long for this to happen? And I mean, this poor young man, I just commented, I said, congratulations to this young man for his accomplishment. Because I'm like, it turned into this whole racial conversation. And that's another good news thing that came into the thing, but we can't even celebrate anything because it has to be turned into a black thing because everybody's like, well, why does it have to be about his race? If you have to ask the question, somebody said, if you have to ask the question, then you have no idea what the heck's really been going on. There's a reason why we have to bring up his race because we've been oppressed.
Right.
That's why.
No, it's definitely a different ball game, and I think like some of the things that I hit on in my video was I don't think that all people are bad people. I refuse to
Right.
think that. I don't want to think that because if I start thinking like that, I'm gonna lose it.
Yep.
So the best thing that I can possibly do is give everyone until they've given me no choice to think that they're a good person. Especially like if I were to bump into Brian on the street and Brian was having the worst day of his life and I accidentally bumped into him and he dropped his bag and he projected, is it fair for me to treat every white person the way that he treated me because he was having a compromised day? Because the reality of it is like in today's society, if anybody on this podcast right now were to ask me how I'm doing, despite truly how I actually am doing, I'm going to say good. And then I'll ask you how you're doing.
Yep.
Right? It's only courtesy for me to be like, oh, I'm good, because if I start going into heavy detail, the first thing you guys are gonna be like, whoa, 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 whoa. We didn't ask for that. But you did. You asked me how I'm doing.
Yep.
And this is legitimately how I'm doing. It's hell right now. But like, what do I look like, to most people? Just another black guy, like complaining about all the things that he can't do in this world. And it's just like all these things that have come into my mind and been so apparent these past few years. Like people assume in 2020 that racism just arrived. Like there's been a black body dead every single week for like the past month and a half, but no one's talking about any of that. People are so confused. I was working this lady out today, and I had to explain to her, like, they're not rioting and looting because of this guy's death. They're not doing that. These are completely different things that are going on right now. Like, this is what America's like when we don't have a voice. This is what America's like when no one is telling people what to do. People are taking law into their own hands. Like, I didn't want to talk about this, but I sent an athlete to a college down in Oregon a few years ago. And she was one of the first athletes that I've coached for 4 years and got her to a university. And she got there and immediately called me, and she was like sobbing, telling me she wanted to go home. And I'm looking at the situation like, no, you're not coming home because like I went to college. It's tough. She said, no, it's not that. I said, what's going on? The KKK showed up to that campus with guns, everything, and said that if you are a minority in this university or at this school, we are going to open up fire and kill you. What? And I said, are you kidding me? So she sent me a tweet saying that the school was on lockdown. And then she said that the police showed up and set up a barricade and called that a peaceful protest. I just don't understand how anything peaceful was about. Like, there was nothing peaceful in that whole story. If I were to even call in, and be like, I'm not going to go to work today, I'm feeling crazy and I might shoot someone, guess who's going to be knocking on my door?
Yeah.
You can't even bring a gun to school. I just don't understand.
You've shared a couple stories here that whether it's from Arkansas, it's your athlete, and I find this really striking that you named your video "Breaking the Silence" and you're deciding to talk about this and you made your video to talk about it. And I want to ask you, why do you think it's been so hard to speak about it? Is it just that, like what you said, the courtesy aspect? You don't want to overwhelm the people and you just want to have everything be nice and smooth, or what do you think is driving the difficulty of speaking about it? And what makes it different now? Is it what put you over the edge and made you decide now, no, this is time?
That's a good question, Brian. People aren't afraid of people. People are afraid of being uncomfortable. And black people, minorities, make white people uncomfortable. So for a white person, John, and correct me if I'm wrong, have you ever been in a room and you're the minority in the room and someone can't really articulate how to refer to you as like the black guy or the African American guy, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a stale, like ugly feeling in the room until somebody else changes the subject.
Yeah.
That, and it's something as small as that. That African American guy, just call me black.
Yeah.
I see it. I see it every day. Just call me black. You've never been
Yeah.
you've never been PC until right now. Call me black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like when you're thinking like that, and like you gotta like walk around certain points, like if just say it. Like it sucks right now. It freaking sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen so many people posting about like, I hear you, I see you. You don't hear us. You don't see us. You're not even a part of what's going on right now. You're at home. Like you're at home behind closed doors writing this because the rest of society is writing it, and you think that you're going to get a bump in views or a bump in likes or a bump in comments. The reason why I made that video breaking the silence, I did that for me. I knew that it would get a good response because it's relevant, but I also did that because I want to get my stuff out there so people can see me for a human being instead of just seeing me as a black guy.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what I do, Brian, they're going to be like, oh, you know, like you did well for a black dude, or you run fast because you're black, or you jump high because you're black, or you're stronger than me because you're black. Maybe if we just really think about it, maybe I just have a different work ethic than you. Maybe I just work harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's always an excuse as to like why I can't have something versus why I do get something. There's always an excuse, and it always has to fall back into the race category.
Yeah. It's always
As
qualified.
uncomfortable as it is to talk about it, it's really easy for someone to point that out.
When you created this video, Norris, you know, and I hear what you're saying. I think that it was great that you spoke up. I think that that's important because if you don't speak up for yourself, then you're allowing everybody else to speak for you. Okay. So I think that's one of the things that I've learned from my own silence about being able to talk about this particular topic. And it's still a struggle because I'm going to do it. I'm going to stumble and I'm going to trip and I'm going to say shit that I probably shouldn't say, but I'm still going to do it anyway. You know what I mean? But because we got to speak up. But I think the thing that's really, really interesting is that you did speak up, you did say something, and I'm curious, where do you take it from? Where do you, Norris, Frederick, this talented content creator, this talented marketer, and obviously this talented human being, what do you do now that you've broken your silence? Where do you see this going?
You continue to build. It's a snowball effect. I do speaking engagements all across this country. I know for a flying fact, I am not going to save everybody. I just want them to be in the room to hear me. Growing up in high school and middle school and elementary school, I was a class clown. I was a headache only because I didn't know how to do anything else. If you're not getting a certain type of attention at home, you're going to go somewhere else to get any type of attention. And that's what I was doing. Mm-hmm. So now as an adult, when I'm walking into these engagements and I'm seeing stuff like this, I did a speaking engagement in Michigan City, Indiana, and I brought one of the little kids up because he just kept interrupting me. And the weird thing was, like, I couldn't even be mad at him because that was me. I saw me inside of him. That was a younger middle school version of me. So like, it is my duty in life. It is my duty to go out here and to speak my truth. You don't have to like me. I don't even care if you do like me. Just respect me. Respect me as if I'm your brother or your uncle or your dad or your cousin. Just respect me. Give me that type of respect. And then at that point, if you still don't like me, we're just not meant to be. I'm not here for everybody. I'm an acquired taste. I get it. But don't judge me based off of what another black person's done to you or done to a friend, of a sisters, of a relatives. That is not fair. Because right now, I could simply be like, I hate white people. And white people, the first thing that you guys are going to do, Brian, sorry, I get it. I understand. You have every reason in the world to, but I don't have every reason in the world to. Because at the end of the day, you're still a man with a family, and you're still a human being, and you still deserve the same respect as all of us. And like, that's where my head is. Am I pissed off? No, I'm not. Am I upset? No, I'm not. Am I emotional about this stuff because it means something to me, and this could possibly and potentially be the reason why my life is taken from me? Of course, but I'm not mad. What's the point of being mad? I've been on this earth for more than 30 years. This shit didn't sneak up. I've seen this. I've seen this movie. There's no point to be mad. If I'm mad, I fall into everything that I'm trying to fight against. I could be looting and rioting right now down the street just to blow off some steam, or I could be in here creating content for people to look at. And no, that's not a hostile black man. That's not what a hostile black man looks like. But who knows?
How do you feel in terms of the difference that you think you can make? Like, do you feel disheartened in terms of the impact, or is that irrelevant because you just know that you have to keep moving forward?
Extremely irrelevant. I mean, think about it, John. Training for the Olympics, you have to look at the long game. You can't look. You can't look at it, or you got to look at the immediate game. You can't look at the long game, because if you're looking at it like, well, 4 years from now, I just got to make this team. But if you get your ass kicked every single day for 4 years, and then the day that you're supposed to show up to compete, what have you learned? You've only learned how to get an ass kicking. So every single day is the most important day of my life. When I'm on tour, when I'm talking, or when I'm creating this content, it is the most important thing to me, because I have to live day by day. I have to live in that moment. Most people will sit here and be like, oh, you work too much. What's the alternative? Like, oh, you work long hours. Again, what's the alternative? I don't know anything else. I will always survive. I will always figure out a way to be okay. The moment that I stop working hard, and the moment that I don't have that aggressive mentality to get stuff done every single second of every single day, then we have our issue. That's when the problem is here. But I don't know. I mean, I don't get discouraged easy. I don't really let my emotions penetrate anything or compromise or contradict anything that I got going on. I'm a very, very logical and critical thinker, and I usually will think before I go out there and react. As an adult, I used to not be like that. So I just have to weigh the pros and cons, the pros and cons extremely quick. And like, even with this podcast, like, my energy right now, I just want to use a bunch of swear words. But my vocabulary, like, it's not going to.
Yeah, I slipped too. I said one, and I said, "Oh man, that's not what our podcast is about," But the emotion's there, and I'm like, a homie of mine, Justin Hunt from high school, sprinter, track and field athlete as well. And I follow him on Instagram. A good friend of mine to this day. He's like my big brother, man. He's about a year older than me, and he's got the dreads. He looks all tatted up. He's a strong, beautiful black man, and he's the most sensitive guy, the most beautiful, sensitive person. And I've been hitting him back for like 3 or 4 days. I look up to him. He's like a big brother to me, and I said, when are you gonna say something, man? He says, man, I can't say nothing yet. I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say because I don't want to speak out of emotion to the point where I'm belligerent, belligerent, and it just not making any sense. He said, give me a moment, Then he posted something today, and it was like this 12-minute video, and I think it was still very emotional because he did repeat specific things. But I said, honestly, I'm glad he did that. I'm glad he repeated what he said. But the thing that he said, if you would cut out 12 minutes of it and just take the how much time he spent saying probably this one phrase, it'd probably be about 6 minutes. He said, I'm so tired. Yeah. For probably about 6 minutes out of the 12 minutes. Literally, I'm not kidding, I'm not exaggerating. He said, I'm so tired. And there was tears in his eyes. And this beautiful, strong brother. And he's sitting there and he's like, I'm just tired. My soul is tired. And he cursed a couple times on this thing, and he doesn't do that. And he says, man, he was about to apologize. And he said, you know what? No, I'm not going to apologize for saying the curse words that I'm using right now, because I think we've been doing that too much. Not African Americans. I think that society has been apologizing and trying to be politically correct and trying to do all this stuff. And all we're really doing is just nullifying what really needs to be said. And you need to say it like it is.
Right.
You need to just call it what it is, because we got to stop apologizing for what's right and what's real and what the truth is. And, you know, this particular episode that we wanted to do with you, Norris, you're a special individual, you know, and yeah, you're an African American as well, but you're more than that. You're more than a black man, but we happen to be black and we happen to live in America, and we have to say something, because, and it doesn't matter how it comes out. It doesn't matter. If you can't handle it, that's your problem.
Right. John,
that's your problem. You know what I mean? You know, that's we can't do that. We can't help you with your feelings. You have a responsibility. Whatever that guilt is that they're trying to throw on you, that's their responsibility, not ours.
John, do you remember when we went to Jamaica?
Yeah.
Do you remember what they were saying when we were walking into the stadium and they were calling us gringos?
Yeah.
I went to Africa a few years back, and they said we were white boys.
Yeah.
So how is it
that
we're too white to be in Africa, too white to be in Jamaica, but too black to be in America? Where do we fit in? So it's just like, I don't know. I mean, and like I was saying in that video, if we were all sent back to our native countries, right? And America was just what it is. They just wanted it to be just white, whatever. What else would there be to fight about? It's going to be, there's going to be something. No one's going to be happy with anything. It's just really mind-blowing to me. I'm standing in Senegal looking at the ocean. One side of this country looks beautiful. Don't get me wrong. Beautiful. The other side looks like a war zone.
Mm-hmm.
You got people walking past me that look just like me, saying, "Oh, you're a white boy. You're a white boy. Go home." And they're saying it in French or in broken English. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how does this make any sense? Where can I go and just be in my own body and be okay with it?
Yeah.
I can't even be at home. I had to call the police on my neighbors a few months ago. The neighbor apparently had a stroke, and in her husband's eyes, she's allowed to talk and say whatever she feels like. I cut down a tree that was like rubbing against my house that I own. She comes outside and said, "You black?" And I said, "Say it. I just need you to say it so at least I know where we stand."
Mm-hmm.
And her husband was like, "No, go back in the house. No, go back in the house." I had to call the police in protection of them, not because I was afraid. And when I was talking to dispatch, I had to repeat myself several times, telling her to tell the officer that's en route that I'm an African-American male and I will be sitting on my porch when you get here. And I sat right there until he showed up. And when I saw him park his car, and when I heard his footsteps coming up the pathway, I put my hands in the air and said, "Hey, I just want you to know I was the one who called you guys."
Mm-hmm.
The two neighbors came out and they're enraged. "No, finally you guys have showed up. Yada, yada, yada. When are you guys going to do your job?" I would never talk to an officer like that.
Yep.
I had never seen white privilege hit me so hard in the face. The officer was like, "Excuse me, sir, I'm trying to talk to Mr. Frederick." And he was like, "He's even lying to you about his name. His name isn't Mr. Frederick. His name is Norris." And I said, "Frederick is my last name." And the dude was like, so the officer was like, "I'm going to need you to calm down. I'm going to listen to him first." The wife in the background was flipping me off, doing this with her hand. And the officer said, "If she does that one more time, I'm going to put her in handcuffs." He said, you can't talk to my wife like that. She just had a stroke. And he was like, we have places where we could put her too. I had never in my life been so happy to be at the right place at the right time. So when people are asking me, are all cops bad people? That is one experience that I can sit back and be like, no, not even a tiny bit.
Mm-hmm.
What he showed me was all these incidents, right? All these 480 plus people that have died through police brutality that were black, that there's one good person out there that when I call, I am not fearful of my life. And it was like the most mind-blowing thing. I had to call my mom, and I was almost in tears. And she said, I'm so proud of you for being able to do that and to feel comfortable doing that.
Wow, yeah.
All shit out of those people.
Norris, I will tell you, but when you described the story, you know what stood out to me is the fact that after you called, you repeatedly had to tell the dispatch, you felt you had to, right? Whether you did or not, you felt you had to. And then you felt the need to sit on the porch, and as soon as he shows up, to have your hands in the air, and to, all of these signs, you were giving symbols and you were manipulating the situation because you felt deeply that if you did not, there was a lot of potential for that entire situation to be misrepresented simply because it was you and white neighbors. Like, that's it. And that to me is, I mean, it's the sadness. I can't even, that's the problem. Like George Floyd is obviously the problem, and the deaths are the problem, but it's so much more prevalent than those very extreme incidences. It's the consistent small incidences and the way that you felt you had to handle that situation to get a good outcome, to not even to get a good outcome, to get a fair and just outcome, right?
Right.
It's
all about playing the game. That's all it is. It's all about speaking. It's all about speaking their language. If I were to lead, Brian, be honest with me. If I were to lead with emotion and that cop showed up and I'm in those people's faces doing this, doing that, what would the cop have done?
The cop would have taken your neighbor's side 100%. They would have just assumed. They would have had a stereotype in their mind about how this all came about. And
when I first moved here, when I first moved in this area, the neighbors stopped me. Not the neighbors I just referenced. Another batch of neighbors stopped me and was like, "Hey, you can't park your car here." I said, "Why not?" "Well, you don't own that." I said, "I sure do." "Well, when did you move in?" "Why does that matter?"
Right.
How when did you become the Census Bureau? Like, I don't need to tell you anything about my life.
Right.
Just like Brian, I told him, I said, "No, I just moved in a few days ago. It's nice to meet you." And I said, "Here's what I can do for you." So I have one of my sponsors makes like my customized socks.
Okay.
So I went to their house and brought all of their family members' socks. Now you're probably thinking like, when you move into a neighborhood, aren't they supposed to bring you stuff? You would think. But I just need to speak their language. I want to be the unthreatening black dude.
Yeah.
And that's the point, though. You're not threatening.
But you guys know that because we've had conversations.
No, what I'm saying is, I'm not talking to you, homie. I'm talking to all the people. I'm telling them that. I'm saying, like, I was thinking to myself today, I said, man, we got an apparel company. I said, maybe we should make a T-shirt for all black males that says, I'm a nice guy. Just so you know, because if you look at my color, my skin, you immediately think I'm gonna come rob you. I'm gonna take something from you. I'm out doing no good. So let me just make it very clear and state it before from afar, so you can see that it says, I gotta wear a sign, like a name badge. I'm a nice guy. Don't worry, I'm not gonna rob you. I mean,
how long do you think that's gonna stick around before somebody starts saying that that's a gang or a cult or this or that?
I know it's obviously it's a joke, but what I'm saying is is that what we have to do? Do we have to spell it out for you? Do we have to tell you beforehand? Do I have to walk around with my hands up in order for you to know that I'm not doing anything? Like,
well, I don't know.
That's the point. The point is that it's absurd. It's absurd.
When they have those T-shirts, they have those T-shirts that said Black Lives Matter, and on the back it says I can't breathe. They banned those in high school for high school basketball games because teams were trying to mimic what the NBA was doing. So they started giving technical fouls to every single player on the teams that were wearing those shirts in warm-ups. So like when can we have a voice? So if you're telling,
Well, I think
go ahead.
I think that what you've done, Norris, is, and this is the point. I mean, it's this is a hard conversation to have without being emotional about it. So we should be emotional about it. But the thing that is most important to myself, and I believe Brian shares the same sentiment, which is why I think he's such an amazing human being and a great business partner, is that we understand that we have such a greater responsibility than just trying to earn a living and build businesses and do all this. It's like, it's everything that you do matters. I don't care what it is that you're doing. Everything that you do matters. And when we look at even this business that we've been building together, I said, it's still a platform, and we still have a responsibility to the society that we actually want to positively influence with the things that we're creating through our apparel company. And I said, if we don't say something, then we're standing in support of the thing that we actually don't support, which is injustice and inequality. I truly believe that the things that you're doing is a reflection of you now speaking up and saying, look, I've never stood for this, and now let me clearly state that. And I hope that you continue to do that, because you are extremely gifted in that regard. And I saw it and witnessed it, when we first connected. I mean, gosh, I honestly, was it almost 15 years ago or something like that? I mean, Norris, you've grown, man, so much. And you'll do us all a service by continuing to do what you did with this last video that I stand 100% behind. And in terms of you being willing to speak and share your experience with all of us. And I thank you for doing that. And I hope that you continue to do that.
Thank you.
There's one thing I do believe 2 days ago, even yesterday in the morning, maybe, I can't even explain really how sort of just kind of empty I felt. Like it was like a lack of emotion. It wasn't like anger and fear or about the riots or protests or anything. It was just sort of like this like emptiness of, and it kind of just felt like futility for me, right? In my position, in my role, whatever. But Norris, I don't know if you've heard of this. It's called Campaign Zero. It's a nonprofit that's been working since Ferguson to just do like the hard work of understanding the systemic problems with police forces and with and with the police contracts, the unions, the policies, all this stuff that for a long time has been kept hidden from people, and intentionally, because it allows the police to not have to reconcile with their behavior, right? And they've just released this research, and they have a website called 8 Can't Wait, and I'll share this with you, Norris, separately, and I'll put it in the show notes and everything for people. But I'm feeling a little bit more hopeful in that I think these problems are largely systemic, and usually if you can identify the main drivers of the worst aspects of the behavior and you can fix those areas, you can make so much good with a very small amount of change. Actually, it takes forever to get to perfect, but it doesn't take that long to get much better, right? If you accept with humility that change needs to happen, and you approach it with a mindset of willingly aiming to achieve a better outcome. And they've got these 8 different policies that they recommend every police department change, and the website is very simple but very clear. It shows you your city and what policies they follow and don't follow. And I hope that we can move in this direction of having everyone like you, Norris, be feeling comfortable and willing to share your feelings, your experience, so that we can understand it, and then actually getting to work on removing the barriers that stop change from happening. Like we have to get more transparent about the reality of how police forces work and what works and what doesn't. And we have to change policies that allow police officers to be abusive. If they're not allowed to if they're not allowed to put people in chokeholds or strangleholds, then nobody gets choked to death. Like that's the fundamental truth. Like if you eliminate that, you eliminate at least one lever for this abuse that's happening. And I'm more mentioning it to you because I don't know how to go forward. I want to be hopeful about this. I want to be positive and try to think that there's a direction forward. And I guess I've said all that, and I want to throw it to you, and I want to understand how you're feeling about looking towards the future. Do you feel hopeful? Do you feel ambivalent? I mean, what's your I'm more asking, what are you feeling right now as you look forward for both for you and for us as a society?
So, I mean, just being completely honest, my feelings are indifferent. Obviously, I'm an optimistic guy, so I'm always hoping for change, and I'm always hoping for the betterment of society and people around me and things around me. My mom grew up and went to a school where she was one of about 10 black kids in the entire school. I grew up and went to a school where I was around the same. My mom is older than me, clearly. Have I seen a ton of change? Don't get me wrong, I really have. Does it come really, really slow? Yeah. I'm not asking for perfect, just like you said. I'm just asking for progress. Do I see the progress? Sure. Do I think that what happened to George Floyd is going to change how everything in this world is going to happen and work? Absolutely not. I'd be stupid to think that. Only because of this. Brian, answer this question and just be as honest as you possibly can. If we weren't on a quarantine, if our society wasn't on lockdown, if social media and the news weren't the only sources of information and human interaction we have right now today, do you think that these cases would have gotten as much publicity as it is? Ask yourself and be honest.
I actually, in this case, okay, as much, maybe not, because I do think the fact that we're on quarantine amplifies something. It definitely amplifies the reaction and the protests and everything. But I actually do. I think especially the Ahmaud Arbery and the George Floyd videos are so extreme that I think they would have made it in front of everybody.
It wasn't as extreme as the black dude that was jogging down the street in the neighborhood and got killed by 2 white people.
But that's what I mean. Arbery, he's the other one. So him and the George Floyd one.
What about the cop that walked into the wrong apartment building after her shift and shot the unarmed black dude in his own apartment? And they did as best as they could to try to cover it up and said he had drugs in his apartment. Or what about the fact that Michael Vick did more jail time than all the cops that have ever killed any black people combined? This quarantine has amplified everything.
Yes.
You're right. Do I think that this case is any different than any other case? No, absolutely not. What is the only thing that's changed in this whole conversation and situation is technology's gotten better. Think about what the hell we just saw. How many angles have we seen from that video of George Floyd? Countless, right?
Yeah.
How many people did you see try to intercept and get in there and help? So what are we doing? We'd rather get a good story to get likes and views and comments than to save a fucking dude's life. Are we kidding? We're on quarantine. You're going to go home and post this video knowing what's going to happen. This is viral. But the dude died. And right now, the only thing we're doing is throwing fucking money to his family. I lost my dad to a murder. I don't give a damn about the money. I want my dad back. You know what I'm saying? So like, a stat came out this morning. There's $100 billion for the police department to do whatever they need to do with, for training, for this, for that, for this, for that. It costs $20 billion for every American citizen to get a free college education in this country. So you're sitting here telling me that our world isn't backwards? It costs $40 billion to get every homeless person off the street and have them start a brand new life. We're spending $100 billion on people that are kicking my own ass. Do I think that there's going to be some change? I think right now we're going to ride this wave until whoever opens up the society again and we're able to travel and see what else is out there in the world. And then we're going to go right back to what we've been doing because it's already happened. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but history just comes in patterns, right? Back in the day, basketball players used to wear these short shorts with these Converse low tops and yada, yada, yada. That fashion has come back 3 times in my existence. Yeah. We've seen this movie. I want there to be change.
Yep.
I want to link arms with officers and walk down the street and play basketball. And one of my best friends on this entire world is an officer. And he told me, if I get behind someone in my squad car and just follow them, they're going to break the law. And I asked him, I said, what the hell does that sound like? And he was like, what? That's what we're told to do. I said, it sounds like if you're looking for someone to do something wrong, you're going to find it. Mm-hmm. How uncomfortable. If I was just looking at you through your window, Brian, right now, how long is it going to be until you do something or until you feel uncomfortable? Like, I'm breaking your personal space. Of course I'm going to do something erratic.
Yep.
Like, I pray to God every single day, I kid you not, that I want change. And I told the parents that I was training, that I was working out with today, I wouldn't wish my life or what it's like to be a black man on my worst enemy. Because nobody needs to feel a victim or trapped in their own body because of the color of the skin. I can't wipe this off. I would never want to wipe this off. I'm proud of who I am. When I was in elementary school and middle school, I don't know about you, John, but I used to want to feel and know what it was like to be white.
Yeah, I did.
Right.
I was ashamed. Oh, I remember being in 3rd grade, angry because I wasn't white. Because I was made to believe, and it's funny how they say this is what 400 years of oppression looks like when people get tired of it. I was made to believe, and somehow wasn't even my own household. I was having to fight the thought that I was stupid because I was black. I literally at 3rd grade, as early as 3rd grade, I remember thinking that going to school, thinking that I had to beat all the white kids in my advanced classes. I fought to get into the advanced classes because I didn't want to feel stupid. So I fought and fought and fought to just prove to myself that I wasn't stupid because I was black. And I don't even know where that came from. It just was there. It's in the air. And we're having to fight all of that on top of everything else. It's in our head. And I don't even know where that came from.
Right.
And guess what? I'm 38 years old and I still have to fight that thought. That I'm not stupid and that I'm not incapable simply because I'm black. Where did that come from?
Right. I got taught Black history for the first 7 or 8 years of school by a white person. And what we did in elementary school, she said, we're going to watch a movie. It's about Black history. I was one of 5 black kids in that entire school. I was the only black kid in my entire 5th grade class.
Yeah, me too.
She said, we're going to watch Roots. Yeah, she said, we're going to watch Roots. And I walked up to her and I said, hey, can I go sit in in-house suspension? This movie makes me aggressive. She said, no, you need to watch it. Every black person I know has seen that movie. I don't want to watch that with white people. So I said, can I take my desk and go outside and do some extra credit? She said, no. You're going to sit down and you're going to watch it like the rest of your classmates. I sat there. We went to recess. This is still the first day. We maybe got 50 minutes into the movie. At recess, these kids are running around the playground playing catch the slave. Now, Brian, I can only imagine who you would assume the slave was.
Yeah.
So I get into a fist fight. Brian, I got suspended for 5 days.
Yeah.
And then the teacher lied on me and said, he never brought this to my attention. So now I got to go home and deal with my mom.
Wow.
Because black parents, when they see potential in their kids, and I hope to God all of them do, they hold you at a different standard when it comes to education.
Yep.
So she whipped my entire ass.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting there like, I did everything I was supposed to do. But these kids, if you think about it, we're in 5th grade. You're starting to understand a few things. We're not 5 or 6 years old. You can formulate these sentences. You know what's going on.
Yep.
But you're backing this up, watching what your people are doing to my people on a movie. You don't see anything that's wrong with it because it's only been 50 minutes into the movie. I know how that movie ends. So I was like, I don't want to watch this. But yet, she thought she knew what was best for me.
Mm-hmm.
I had seen that movie. And, you know, like just circling back, when we had first gone on this call, I referenced that white people right now need to stop asking black people if they're okay. And I meant that with the fullest extent of my heart. Brian, if I hadn't talked to you for 5 years, and the first conversation I sent you or texted you or had a conversation with you about was, hey, Brian, how's white privilege going? How would you respond to me?
I don't know. I have no idea how I would respond to you, but it would be positive.
That is exactly how we feel right now. Or asking me for resources. Well, where can I donate? Shit, donate to me. If you want to put your money where your mouth is, send me a check. I've been dealing with this shit. Don't just feel guilty today. You got people on social media making this a damn contest. I donated $10 and sending a screenshot. I don't give a flying fuck. I don't care how much you've donated. Don't ask me for the resources. I have to get online and Google it just like you would. Stop trying to have a conversation with me about your insecurities. Go on Google. Everybody has a link in their bio right now. Every Karen, barbecue patty, all of them got a link in their bio. Go figure it out. I don't get it. And it's like, going off of what you said, John, like, I'm just tired. I'm more so tired of just having the conversation of like, no, I'm okay. This is just a normal day for me.
That's what my homie said.
Right.
He said, I'm tired of explaining it. I'm tired of justifying it. I'm tired of dancing. I'm tired of, you know, my mom crying because she's worried when I leave the house if I'm going to make it back. I'm tired of my daughter wondering if she's going to lose her daddy. I'm tired.
Right.
I'm tired. And and honestly, it's funny because, you know, I think that, you know, and this is where I want to take the latter half of wherever this is going. This is this conversation because we appreciate your time, Norris. At the end of the day, you know, yeah, anybody listening to this episode can hear the emotion in all of our voices. You know, I feel the same way that Norris feels, and obviously Brian feels the same way that we both feel, and that we care about all people. We love and celebrate all races, all religions, all backgrounds, because that's what makes the world beautiful. That's what makes America beautiful. And the fact that we can't enjoy the diversity, because if it was all the same, it'd be boring. Trust me, nobody wants it. Even those who say they do, they really don't. You know, because once you get something, again, it's human nature. The moment you get it, it ain't good enough. You know what I mean? Like you said, you asked the question in your thing, and I'd love to have you say it again, just to very clearly state it. You asked this unique question about what if everybody left, and it was just if it's just a white thing, and whites want America to be strictly white, straight up white, only white. What happens when you get that? Then what happens? There's always going to be a problem. I tell my kids all the time, I said, pray for new problems. They said, no, I want to pray for no problems. I said, nah, that's not how it works. You're always going to have problems. They said, if you pray for new problems, that means that you've solved the old ones. You should always want new problems. I want new problems. I don't want old problems. I want to spend my life trying to solve the same problem I was trying to solve when I was 5, when I'm 65. You know what I'm saying? So we can all hope for, you know, you might hope for one thing, but as soon as you get it, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to move on to the next thing. So you're never going to be satisfied is the answer to the question that you posed in that video. In my opinion, you're never going to be satisfied. So I say, we seek acceptance. We seek, the conversation for clarity. People are most scared, I believe, when they're uncertain, when they don't know, when they're living in this darkness of not knowing something. You don't know me. I'm a black man and you don't know me. But you see me and you get scared. But I guarantee you, if you were to talk to me, give me about 5 minutes, you will love me.
Right.
Because you understand that I am here for you, and I'm here for all of you. And if you just spoke to me, you would find out that, man, I'm trying to make your community better, our community better, this world better. Just because I'm black, that has nothing to do with me being a human being. That's just the color of my skin. That's just the complexion. That has nothing to do with my character. You know what I'm saying? And so I hope that people will talk to people. Just ask me a question. Hey, man, are you going to rob me? No, I'm not. Actually, I'd like to help you with your groceries to your car. And is there anything else that I can help you out with? Why? Because I'm your neighbor. Bro, I'm your fellow American.
I'll never forget this, man. I got invited to a country club with a friend a few years back for like some Christmas party.
Mm-hmm.
It was in a gated off community in Seattle. So I'm sure we're all thinking the same thing. So I show up and I immediately felt uncomfortable. But yet this is normal. So I'm just walking around minding my own, hanging out with the lady that brought me, doing my thing, shaking hands, meeting people. This older woman had a glass of champagne. I'm assuming it was champagne. I don't know. And she handed it to me. And I said, "What are you doing with this?" She was like, "Oh, could you take this in the back?" I looked around and was like, "I'm sorry, what was that?" And she was like, "Don't you work here?" And I was like, "No, I'm dressed in a tuxedo. Why would I?" No. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." Later on that night, I can't make this up. Later on that night, another older woman, she was old. She had her cup she had a glass of wine on the ground because she was sitting down. She put it on the side of her table or on the side of the ground by her leg, and she stood up. And I said, "Oh, you forgot your drink." And I reached down to get the drink, and she swatted my hand away and was like, "Don't you dare touch that. I don't want your hands on my glass." And I said, "I was just trying to help. Do I look like I need your help?" And I wanted to be like, kind of. But I was like,
right.
I said, "I'm sorry, no worries." I walked off.
Yep.
And then we got to like the 55 to 60-year-old range. Like now these women are dancing and all this kind of stuff. And I'm out just hanging out. I don't want to dance. I don't dance to this kind of music. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just sitting at the table on my phone, and this woman comes up and was like, "Aren't you a sight to look at?" And I'm thinking to myself, like, I believe I'm getting hit on.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my name is Norris." And I reached out to shake her hand, and she like grabbed my hand and started caressing it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, your husband has to be here. He's going to see this.
Right.
And then how am I going to defend myself out of this situation? Nobody in here but the person that brought me likes me. So she was like, "Do you want to go dance?" Like, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, I'm good. Another guy comes over and was like, "You're an athlete, aren't you? What are you doing here?" Like, I just couldn't be a human being. I couldn't be anything but like a predator or an athlete. Or I was just like, all this happened in one night. So I was like, I gotta go. And the lady I was with was like, "I completely understand. I'm so sorry."
Wow.
Yeah.
You knew this was gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that this was gonna happen. But like,
She didn't sound surprised.
bruh.
Yeah.
She asked me, she said, "You want to go back to my condo and I'll just meet you there?" No, I want to go all the way home. I want to go all the way to my bedroom.
Yeah.
Look, I guess when it all boils down to it, Brian, like, I don't want people to look at this podcast and think that, like, I'm not out here pushing for change, because I truly am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, like, emotionally charged right now because of this situation is getting the wrong type of attention, in my humble opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe that people need to be looting and spray painting Black Lives Matter on people's buildings and things like that, because that's counterproductive. I also don't believe that the media should be pushing certain things to get attention and blase. I don't believe in that as well. I believe before you're out in the streets protesting, you should talk to someone and get educated. I put a post up on my film page and said Black Lives Matter, because to me, Black Lives Matter. Immediately, I got a comment saying, all lives, yeah, don't do that, blah, blah, blah. So I just erased the comment and I just changed the caption, because it's not worth me having to justify who or what I am to anybody anymore. Mm-hmm. And I'm tired of it. And like, I'll say it again. I love all people. I love all backgrounds. I'm not going to sit here and be like, my best friend is white, because my best friend is not white. I don't need to have that conversation. But I love everybody equal. I will not shy away from making a new friend. I will not shy away from extending my hand to try to help. I've been in a situation where I didn't have help. I've been in situations where I had nobody to lean on. I don't want to be in that situation, nor do I want that for anyone else. So if I do see someone who's having a hard time bending over to pick up their glass of wine, I will do my best to accommodate that. Or like John said, like if there's an older woman or a person that just may need some extra help with their groceries, I will offer up a helping hand. At the end of the day, we are all in this together, whether we like it or not.
Absolutely.
You're not like me, not one bit. But all these materialistic things that you got, all this hate that you got in your heart, that doesn't go with you when you die. The one thing that you do not see in a funeral is a U-Haul taking all your stuff to the grave with you. You don't see that. I just want everybody to have the equal opportunity to live the same type of life with all the same opportunities in it. That's all that I've ever wanted. I will open my hand, my heart, my arms to anyone. My cousin just left here from a 3.5-hour drive. She said she drove up here because she just needed a hug. Are you kidding me? You drove over 200 miles to get a hug because you're not getting that in your own city.
Mm-hmm.
It's heartbreaking. So like, I want change. I want change more than anything. I don't think throwing money at a problem is anything but a Band-Aid that we've repeatedly seen. I think one of the safest places right now in our country is to be an officer of the law, because you can legitimately get away with murder. If I've had a bad experience with white people, I just have to become a cop and then I can legally do what I need to do, is what I'm being told through the media. Mm-hmm. It's tough and it's a challenge.
It's a very interesting statement. It's a very interesting statement to make, but it's one I've never even considered until you said it. It's very interesting, Norris.
It's sad, man. It's sad. And like I said, one of my best friends is a cop. I love him to death, and I worry every single day that he goes to work that he makes it home, and he's in the gang unit on top of that. So he's essentially fighting against his own kind to make his streets and his community a better place. Mm-hmm. And it's sad. But again, he told me to my face, I haven't had to pull my gun out one time. And he's been on the force for 3 years in the gang unit. You kidding me? So I don't know, Brian or John. I wish I had the answers. I wish I knew the secret sauce. I just think right now we all need to pull our heads out of our ass. And we need to look at one another as equal. It's not like they're saying, one step, the first person on the moon, the first white person on the moon, they're going to be like the first black guy on the moon, but they'll never say the first white person to do anything because it's expected. And that's confusing to me. I've never heard, well, the first white person to graduate from Princeton was the valedictorian. I've never heard that before. Uh-huh. But hopefully things will change. Hopefully things will make better sense. Hopefully we can stop seeing this pyramid of color and just seeing people for who they are. The lady today was like, and she's a young girl. She said, did you realize that women and men don't even get paid equally? So we're also in our own fight. And I wanted to be try being black in a woman. But I wanted her to have that. If she had enough courage to have this conversation with me, I need her to win. I need her to have that, so she's not afraid to say that to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the issue. We can't even tell people to shut up or get out of my face because it's not politically correct anymore. People get all sensitive and butthurt. But I don't know. I'm trying my best to figure out what I think can be done in this situation, not for the betterment of myself, but for the betterment of my community. I shouldn't have to put my GPS on to go to the store. I shouldn't have to do any of this stuff. I should be able to walk around free like everybody else. And I feel like, at least this day and age, that this has all been taken from me. And now, with this quarantine, people are forced to see what reality is like for other people outside themselves. People are complaining about losing their job and going on unemployment. That's not a big deal for me. I've been on unemployment half my life up until before I was an adult. I don't understand. I don't get it. Like, we used to grocery shop at the food bank. I am not above that. Do I got money now? Yeah. Do I still look for a bargain? Of course. I am not better than where I've come from. It's like, I don't know. I hope something.
I think you said it. I think you said it, man. I think you said it. I think that the first thing is to have the conversation and to hear each other. I mean, I think that it's hard for people to just shut up and listen, but sometimes you just need to shut up and listen. I think you just need to close your mouth, be quiet, and let the other person tell you what you don't know.
Right.
You assume all this stuff, but you just don't know. And I think that's where we should end it. I think that's the key thing about it, is that you broke the silence, that you can start the conversation, because you have a right to say how you feel. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that's what's so beautiful about, and what stood out to me in terms of the relevance and significance, more importantly, the significance of the fact that you said what you said, and that video is stating what it's stating. It's it's a man in this country who doesn't feel like he's home in his own home, and that he's safe in his own country, and that he can't honestly and openly contribute to the betterment of his own country. We need to be able to have this conversation, everybody, and we need to be able to listen. I don't need you to comment on everything. Nobody needs anybody to comment on everything. You need to be able to say how you feel about what you're dealing with and what you're concerned with, so that we can all have a better understanding first. You just need to hear it so that you can get some understanding. That's where we got to start, in my opinion, because that's all that we can really do, is just shut up and listen. Stop trying to get this attention. Stop using social media to get your name out there. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. If it ain't relevant, it's irrelevant. If it ain't going to make a difference and it's not adding value to other people's lives, stop doing it, please.
Agreed.
It's a waste. It's falling into a void, because most people ain't going to see it anyway. And if it gets attention, it's probably going to be the wrong kind of attention more often than not, unless it's truly of value and it's going to contribute to the progress of society and what we're really dealing with. And this is everybody's problem, just to be clear. What we're talking about ain't a black problem. It's our problem. It's an everybody problem. It's a human problem, a human race problem. We got a problem. We all have this problem. And I hope that more people will have a conversation like we did today. Brian, if you don't mind just closing it out for us, man, appreciate it.
Norris, thank you for joining. Thank you for making the video you made. Thank you for approaching it from a very thoughtful and personal perspective, because I think, I don't know, it was good for me to see it. It was good for me to hear what you had to say. Thank you for joining us. I don't have much else. I really appreciate it, honestly. There's not much, like I said, there's not much I can say that I expect to say that's going to make you feel better, but it's been good for me to have this conversation, and I hope that it's good for everybody who hears it. And so thank you again for joining us, Norris and John, and be safe out there. Okay?
Appreciate it. Thank you, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in. You can find links to any articles or items we referenced in the show notes. Please subscribe and be sure to give us a rating. And remember to tell a friend about the show. The Go Be More podcast is produced by Go Be More Apparel. Check us out at gobemore.co. For all of us at Go Be More, we are what the world is chasing, and we hope this podcast helps you become what the world is chasing too.